Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. I know it has been quite a long time since I've uploaded a video. I got very busy doing my dissertation and everything at university, and since coming out I haven't actually had a chance to film a video, but I figured since I got some brand new equipment to create content with, I figured I would do a brand new video, and it sort of felt right to sort of do this video coming back in because I've been wanting to do this video for quite a while now. With the news that Scream 7 has just begun filming, I believe, or is in the stages of filming. Thanks to Kevin Williamson's Instagram post, I figured I would do a video that I've been dying to do for so long, and that is rank the Ghostface killers of all the Scream movies. I may also do another video of ranking the movies themselves, but I mainly wanted to do a video about the Ghostface killers, just because I feel like everyone has their own opinion on who their top 3 is, and I feel like some opinions are very controversial, and obviously not everyone agrees with them, and I've definitely not agreed with who a lot of people's top 3 is, but we all have our own opinions on them, I guess. And I felt, since I'm donning my favourite Halloween t-shirt with all my iconic killers on, what better way to go into this than with a horror film. Now, those that know me know that Scream is my absolute #1 horror franchise ever. I watch it so much. I have the Scream script from the first movie, which has like some signatures, and it's got like interesting facts at the back. And obviously the script is very different at times to what you see in the movie. So following it along was very hard when there is certain conversations that is not in it. But anyway, let's get into this video. Okay, so I have my phone because my phone currently has every single killer on here that I have ranked. So when talking about this, I'm not going to include Greg or Jason, mostly because we didn't really see anything at Greg other than his mutilated body in a fridge. And Jason only really had one kill. Don't get me wrong, it was hard seeing Samara Weaving get killed straight away. Kind of thought she might have a bigger role just because she did Ready or Not and she was fabulous in that. But yeah, he only really sort of had the one kill, and it was very good with the misleading that, you know, is he going to be our Ghostface? Because they've revealed it too quick. But yeah, unfortunately, Jason and Greg are not going to be included in this. So in 12th place, we have Ethan Landry. Ethan's in 12 just because I feel like, for me personally, he was very predictable. He was quite easy to sort of call as being one of the killers straight away. I don't really think there's much to say on Ethan, just because other than, I'd say, the iconic double hand slide of the knife when they stab Chad is very, very iconic of a shot. He didn't really have anything going for him. He was a very sort of forgettable character, and he was quite easy to sort of call that he could be the killer. So unfortunately, yeah, Ethan is in last place. In 11th, we have Wayne Bailey. I probably would have put him higher if he did a little bit more. I would say the iconic bodega scene was incredible. The fact that it was the first time you see Ghostface use something other than the knife, getting to see him use a shotgun, was quite cool to sort of see. And then obviously the tension, the sort of iconicness of donning different masks for each scene. But I would definitely say, yeah, the bodega scene sort of saved him from being in last place. The reveal that he was Richie's dad definitely catches you off guard. And obviously with like Ethan and Quinn being, his kids, as well. And I'd say he definitely gave, a great performance, as a cop / killer. It definitely makes you think otherwise because, you don't really have it in your head that the cop could be the killer because, we've had years of Dewey being fabulous as a cop and that there's nothing that he could really be killer wise. And he obviously puts in your head of maybe Kirby is the killer, but, you kind of have deep down that you don't want her to be the killer just because she survived and she came back and it was fabulous seeing Hayden. So the idea that Bailey sort of switches the narrative onto Kirby was definitely a cool remark. But yeah, other than the bodega scene, he doesn't really fit well and he doesn't really work. And obviously the end scene with Sam and the masks is definitely an iconic death for him. So in number 10, unfortunately, we have Richie. So the three main guys of the Kirsch family. So yeah, Richie is unfortunately a little bit lower down than people sort of put him as. For me personally, he just I sort of called him as a killer straight away. It sort of donned the same as Scream, where it was look at the best friend and the boyfriend. So I sort of, called that it would be Richie straight away just because we didn't really know much about him. It was sort of very convenient that he's dating the daughter of Billy Loomis. And then he's always sort of in a place where someone, where Tara was getting hurt in the hospital. His reveal was definitely, it could have been a twist. But I'd say, yeah, the reason for them being Ghostface is probably a little bit low on the ranking just because, they're doing it just for the films to make them better because they're, film fans and all that. But they want to, make it better just because they live in the town and everything. So Richie was good. His death was definitely, iconic that they made Sam give in to her urges of being the serial killer's daughter, with all the flashbacks of Billy Loomis. So he definitely could be higher. But compared to other characters, I would definitely say he's not one of the greatest Ghostfaces. Only slightly higher, I have Charlie. I don't really have much to say about Charlie, to be honest. He was sort of predictable in the love type that, I think he was fabulous that he was able to trick Kirby. I feel like that was such a twist for him to be a killer and for him to kill Kirby, was iconic. And then obviously, fortunately for him, he was the Stu of that film. I think I put him low just because Scream 4 is my least favourite of all them. And I know people are probably going to come at me and people are going to probably hate at me just because I know for some people Scream 4 is like fabulous. But for me, there was just nothing with Scream 4. I didn't really like it. So the killers, they weren't exactly wowing me, to be honest. So Charlie was he was the film student. So it was kind of a little bit obvious that, maybe it could have been Charlie and Robbie, but unfortunately Robbie meets his end. So it was definitely an interesting turn, but yeah, Charlie just didn't really, other than Olivia's kill in the house, which was very, very brutal and so intense and was actually such a cool scene. And obviously when you actually watch the deleted scene of what she actually looked like when she was dead, it's insane what he did. And the whole concept that they were filming it to put it online to become famous was actually quite a cool concept, but still, I'm not a fan of Scream 4, hence why Charlie is quite low. Number 8 would be Quinn. I think the whole idea of her faking her death was such a good concept to sort of do. The idea of her having a cop dad as well. You know, you don't really think of her because her dad's a cop. She's the slutty sort of roommate, and all that. But I definitely say I clocked her probably later than I should have. I didn't call her as quick as I did with previous killers, which I kind of hated myself a little bit for that. Eventually I clocked onto it, but yes, I wish that I clocked Quinn a lot earlier. But I do think the whole premise of faking her own body and that you don't ever really see her die, except for the picture, is such a cool concept. You see the picture and then she gets thrown on Annika, and that's about all we sort of see of her. We don't really see anything else. We don't see her being killed. You just sort of see that. So she was definitely cuckoo crazy towards the end, as we saw. But yeah, she sort of, again, similar to Ethan in that she didn't really have a lot going for her. I'm pretty sure she was part of, I can't remember if it was her or Ethan that was the ones that killed Gail. Obviously she stabs Mindy, which was awful. And obviously, you know, it's a insane concept that she's, you know, killing Mindy and no one else around her is hearing. But yeah, she just didn't really have a lot going for her, I'm afraid. In 7th, I put Amber, just because for me, Amber did a lot more than Richie did. You know, they had the whole double team of killing Judy and Wes at the same time, which seeing Judy get killed was actually very sad because I did like her as a cop. I thought she was actually quite cool to come into the franchise. So seeing her get killed was actually a bit shocking. And obviously the whole house sort of scene with Wes. But I think Amber's ultimate kill of Dewey for a diehard Scream fan was the worst thing in the world to watch. Just because, you know, although yes, they do say that legacy characters can be expendable, they can be killed, it's still really hard to see someone like Dewey when you think that Gail, Sydney and Dewey were the 3 remaining characters. They can't possibly ever die. And that sort of proved us wrong. And he had such an awful death, and you're sort of shouting at the screen for him to, you know, just shoot them in the head. And I think Amber's sort of take on how she killed him and using that against Gail was such a cool sort of concept. And the fact that she didn't really care if she got found out as Ghostface, especially in the end scene when she kills Olivia and says, "Welcome to Act 3, is definitely an iconic type scene. And you kind of have to give it for her death. You know, she gets hand sanitizer on her. She gets burnt through half of her face. And then ultimately she gets killed by Tara. I do kind of wish they stuck with the original storyline that Tara and her had like a romantic connection, just because I feel like that could have been such a turning point in the ending. Just for them sort of having a more connection than they did. So I definitely think that that could have been such a different dynamic to explore. In number 6, I put Jill, which is definitely sort of controversial. A lot of people put her in top 5 or even top 3. But for me, I just didn't like the whole, she didn't want to be in Sydney Shadow. She wanted the fame. She wanted people to know who she was. I sort of hated that concept. I would definitely say it was like a slight twist that she could be the sort of killer. And obviously when you sort of rewatch the film, you sort of see her filming Olivia's death. She has the phone against the window. There's sort of a lot more stuff that she sort of partook in. Obviously, the only thing that gave her away was mentioning the matching wounds. So I definitely think she had so much potential. She did such a lot. And let's not forget the iconic where she throws herself around the room. She scratches her face, pulls her hair, throws herself into a table. She stabs herself in the shoulder. So she definitely puts herself through it just to sort of play the victim card. And obviously, she kills her mum just to take it one step further, to be so much like Sydney. She killed her mum. So she definitely has the psychotic gene and is definitely up there with being a psycho killer that would have no remorse whatsoever. But yeah, like I said, I just did not like the whole doing it for the fame route that they went down. So I'm not dissing Jill as a killer. I think she was amazing as a killer, but personally for me, she's not one of my favourite Ghostface. Above Jill in my top 5, so my 5th one is Nancy Loomis. I would put her higher if I didn't have my top 4. But Nancy Loomis, I still kick myself to this day that I never guessed Debbie Salt. I kind of figured there was something off about her, how she was constantly trying to get involved with Gail, how she was constantly, wanting interviews and all that. I felt something was off, but never in my wildest dreams did I think that she could be Billy's mother. So that was definitely such a twist that I love that they put that in there. Because obviously we don't really hear much about Nancy. We don't see Nancy, other than that she left. That's all that we sort of knew about her. So having her come in was insane. It was such a good twist. Her killing Mickey and trying to pin it all on Mickey, trying to, get her revenge on Sydney. And obviously she has the sad but very iconic killing of Randy, which I will say hurt, just because I felt like Randy had so much potential. And I'm still sad that he died so soon in the franchise, because he could have been iconic. But obviously the fact that she killed him was definitely such a twist, both her killing Randy off and her being Nancy Loomis. So she definitely is in my top 5 for that sort of reason, that I never in a million years would have guessed that she could be a Ghostface killer. In number 4, I put Stu. Now, I love Matthew Lillard. I grew up with him in Scooby-Doo. So seeing him in Scream was insane. I felt like his comedy in it, especially at the end when he starts to, say that his parents are going to be mad at him. It's so funny. And, he is a pawn in Billy's game, really. He is the sort of scapegoat, as they call. And for me, I will always hold on to the fact that Stu is not dead, and that I would love to see Stu come back. It's sort of the hope that maybe the TV didn't kill him. Maybe he did live. They brought Billy back through visions. So somehow, possibly, they could bring Stu back. But I did love him as a sort of killer. He had the psychopathic verse of him. He was definitely interesting in it. you sort of kind of clock a little bit with the sort of looks between Billy and Stu that they have. You know, he does sort of joke about the "I'll be back" mark that Randy says. And I do think he was a good duo with Billy. They are definitely sort of iconic. I would definitely have him higher, but my top three has always been my top three. I would probably say I would definitely swap my four around every now and then, but yeah, my top three sort of has never really changed. So in third, I have Roman. Roman sometimes goes to second because I will put 1 and 2 as number 1. But Roman is number 3. I think he was definitely iconic. A lot of people are probably going to hate me for putting him so high up. I know a lot of people put him as number 1 and a lot of people put him below 5. But for me, Roman was iconic. Not only was he the first solo Ghostface that did so many kill-ins, he was sort of iconic, the fact that he was producing a film on the Ghostface killings and then sort of did it himself. He is the whole reason that Scream even started, really. He persuaded Billy to start the murders. He persuaded Billy to get Stu and have a scapegoat. The only reason he did it was because of his mum. So it's definitely sort of interesting to see how the parts of Scream fit. And then the whole brother-sister thing was definitely sort of something I didn't think that they would go down the route. But you definitely sort of see the sibling energy, especially in that last sort of scene where they're screaming at each other. And then where, you know, she holds his hand when he dies. So there was definitely a sort of sibling energy between the two of them. But yeah, I think it was definitely sort of a great twist that he would blame it all on his film producer, like on Milton, the head of the production, that he would do it all just because of his mum, that he would use, you know, Maureen's old pictures, that he would involve her mum's death into the sort of film because, you know, that never gets shown. We're only really told about it. You know, he sort of kills off Cotton straight away, which was insane because I love Liv Schreiber. I loved him as Cotton. He was amazing. But seeing, you know, I know a lot of people hated the voice modulator, but I thought that was actually quite cool that you can mimic everyone. So it was definitely sad to see Cotton go, but I definitely think Roman being the only one to kill everyone was definitely such a cool thing, because then you start wondering, well, maybe it can't always be 2 killers. Obviously, we've seen 1 killer in Scream 3. We've seen 3 killers in Scream 6. So it was definitely a great twist. Now, my number 1 and my number 2 changes, just because I feel like they could both be number 1. But for me, my number 2 is Billy, unfortunately. Billy is obviously iconic. It's Skeet Ulrich, and, you know, his iconic still of "we all go a little crazy sometimes" was definitely insane. His whole thing that he uses to trap Sydney, to make it seem like Sydney's dad did all the killings, that, you know, he snapped because it was his wife's death anniversary, that he killed everyone, and that Billy only really did it because Sydney's mum had an affair with his dad and caused his mum to leave. And then obviously he uses Stu as his scapegoat. You sort of don't want to assume it's the boyfriend. But yeah, I think the idea of the boyfriend and the best friend's boyfriend being the killers was definitely iconic. Obviously, there was lots of deaths in Scream 1 that were made for the franchise and sort of made the franchise live up to what it is. Obviously, we see the iconic Casey Becker death, where you don't really assume that Drew Barrymore is going to die so quickly. You think she's going to be the star of the show, but yet her death is so iconic. And we obviously get the iconic, what's your favorite scary movie? The fact that both Stu and Billy committed that death. And then, like I said, for Stu, you get the constant, like, eye remarks to each other when they have killed or when they're talking about killing, that, you know, there's a constant, could he be the killer? You know, Randy points it out quite a lot that, you know, he could have killed them. But, you know, Sydney obviously does the deed with him. And, you know, he sort of uses the fact she's not a virgin anymore so she can be killed. But I definitely think Billy is definitely iconic as a Ghostface killer and as a character. You know, he started the sort of franchise. You know, he eventually comes back with Sam, and, you know, it was great sort of seeing him as the visions that, you know, even after he's dead and comes back as visions, he's still psychotic. He still wants to murder and gut people. So I think that even if Roman hadn't have pushed him to sort of commit the killings, I still think maybe something would have snapped in Billy and maybe he would have done something on his own. But as a Ghostface killer, he's definitely top two always. There is no doubt in my mind that Billy is not top two. And then my number one is, of course, Mickey Altieri. Mickey, for me, was just so iconic. I think I did call Mickey being the killer just because I guess in Scream 2, you look at the best friend and the boyfriend again. So, obviously, Sydney's boyfriend in the second one was not the killer. Mickey obviously took on the role of being such an iconic killer, and obviously him being in a film studies class, literally talking about, you know, movies and sequels, how they don't always live up to stuff. Whereas for me, Scream 2 is my favorite. It's the most iconic for me. And I love, obviously, the reveal Mrs. Loomis, that Mickey does it because he wants to get caught. His sort of motive is so insane. It's so out there. It's ridiculous. But he is such an iconic Ghostface. I'm pretty sure he did most, if not all, the killings in Scream 2. Obviously, Randy was Mrs. Loomis, but I'm pretty sure he did every single other killing in that movie, which kudos to him. I'm pretty sure between him and Roman, it's very tight on who had the most killings. But yeah, for me, Mickey is just so iconic. He is the best sort of Ghostface just because he sort of takes the crazy and, you know, he really plays with it, especially towards the end, that, you know, he wants to get caught. He is psychotic. And then unfortunately, you know, he teams up with Nancy Loomis and unfortunately meets his demise through her, and then obviously comes back just to be shot again. But yeah, for me, number one has always been sort of Mickey. I sort of love everything about him as a character and as a Ghostface killer. So it was definitely not that hard to sort of rank him in the top three. But like I said, there is a tough time when Mickey and Billy are both at number one, just because they are so similar in ways and they are so very hard to decide sometimes who is better, who was better as a character, who was better as a Ghostface killer. But yeah, for me, Mickey has always been my number one. So it was definitely sort of easy to be able to rank all these. And obviously with Scream 7 coming out, there is obviously so much to sort of delve in. And, you know, there is so many theories going around, you know, maybe if Sydney snapped and Sydney's the killer, if, you know, her daughter becomes the killer, if, you know, her husband becomes the killer. But, you know, with Scream 7 coming out, they could make, you know, be like Fast and Furious and make like 11 of these, and I will happily watch every single one of them, even if they become stupid, predictable, whatever. For me, Scream is such a franchise I will happily just watch whenever. But with news of Scream 7, obviously, it is a little disappointing that they have changed the actor of Mark. Obviously, Joel McHale has come in to play Mark Evans. And obviously, if you're like me and loved sort of Scream 3 with Mark Kincaid and Patrick Dempsey, and the whole idea that they could have been together, and then Scream 4 and like Scream 5, sorry, not Scream 4, gives you the fact that she married Mark and had kids, and you sort of loved the fact that she was with Mark, although they don't necessarily state that it's Mark Kincaid from Scream 3. As Scream fans, we obviously all put it in our head that she did marry Mark Kincaid. So the fact that unfortunately he's not going to be in there and they've changed it to Mark Evans is a little bit sad as a Scream fan, just because I did love the dynamic between the two of them in Scream 3. And then Isabella May has obviously come on as Sydney's daughter, which would be interesting because I loved her in Alexa and Katie in that, and I think she's an incredible actress. I don't know how exactly they're going to do it, considering Scream 5, I'm pretty sure her girls were like really, really young. So whether there's a time jump or something, I'm not entirely sure how they're going to handle her having a teenager, possibly, unless, you know, although, yes, they didn't specify in Scream 5 how old the girls were. We all sort of assumed they were very young. But, you know, I think Scream 7 could have very various twists. Are they going to kill off another legacy character? Is Sydney going to die? Is Gail going to die? Or are they possibly going to go down the route where maybe Gail's the killer this time? Like Scream 6 kind of implied that she could be a good killer. Is Sydney going to be a killer this time? You know, is Mark going to die? Is her daughter going to be the killer? Or is her daughter going to die? Obviously, I'm very sad that Sam and Tara aren't going to be in the film. I thought they were fabulous in 5 and 6, but I can't wait to see what Scream 7 does. It should be very interesting. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoy this video. Let me know in the comments your order of the Ghostface killers that you would suggest, and that you would have an opinion on. Obviously, everyone's is going to be different. So, you know, no judgment on if people have different to me, if people have different to others. If you want another video where I talk about ranking the Scream movies, or if you want another video about other horror movies, I will happily do that. I'm hoping to start some reaction videos to movies and TV shows. And I will definitely be bringing back my true crime and makeup because you guys have loved some of those videos. So I will definitely be doing them. And since I finished university, I figured I would do a couple of university videos for those that are possibly maybe going into their 3rd year and maybe struggling with dissertations, or those that are just starting university. So if you guys have any questions that you want answered about university, feel free to comment them below, or you know, drop me a message on my socials, which will all be in the description below. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys very soon. Bye guys.